All right, well, welcome to another episode of Panakal, podcast for geeks. Today's episode's the one about Sideshow Collectibles. With me, I've got Dave Wilkins and David Igo. One of you guys still does work for Sideshow sometimes, and one of you guys doesn't work for Sideshow anymore, if I believe, right? Or both of you guys don't.
I haven't worked in a while. I think
Okay.
the last thing we did together.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, was it?
The Venom.
That
No,
just
so dude, you started Venom when I was still there, but you finished it after,
Yeah.
like, Gracie when it was done. No,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think you could. I mean, I know Gracie loves you, so you could work with Sideshow as much as you want. I know when I was there, we had a hard time locking in Dave's time because he was so busy with his full-time job and his personal IP.
Weirdo.
I mean, the personal, yeah. Well, you know, that takes a. It's. I know as a person who has his own IP that it's very stressful when you try to do work and then it takes away from your personal IP stuff. I don't do a lot of freelance these days. I've done like 2 board games, you know, but
Nice.
I don't know how you guys like. I think once I get into the field, like I actually talked to Tom from Sideshow, I think was his name, at the party. You know, those awesome parties you guys used to invite me to. But you know, I thought for a minute I was gonna get some work at Sideshow, and I was like, the pressure of that is, I mean, I would obviously get the work done, but there's a point where I haven't done enough freelance where I feel like every time somebody contacts me for work, I'm like, do I want to take this job or not? Because I don't want to fuck it up. And then, oh, by the way, you can swear on the show. I don't care. And you know, like that reflects poorly on you. You know, like if there's the last board game I did, there was a little bit of a clusterfuck where deadlines got mixed up and I was pressured and I just didn't produce the best work I could have, in my opinion. So, but let's talk about Sideshow, because I was, you know, the show is obviously about geeky, nerdy stuff, and Sideshow seems to be like, I got into Sideshow back in like 2012 or 2014. I think it was like kind of when it was just only mainly statues, and there were these huge ones you can see behind me.
Yeah.
They come in boxes the size of small children.
Still do.
Some are refrigerators and cars.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, life-size endoskeleton, you get a few giant boxes, you know. So.
Oh yeah, one of my friends got like one of the, I think it was Iron Man. It was like huge, and it came with all these pieces, right? And I'm just like, cool, because it's like that's a good way to ship something, right? So it doesn't break. But I just remember the cost of these things were like, so like, you know, I think that Green Lantern was about $200 or $300 when I bought it back in the day, and that
right,
I got the Fett for free, but the Fett was probably about the same cost. And they're collector's items to a degree now, right? They're only limited to like 10,000 or something. So, but now you guys got, but Sideshow has, I've been buying a lot of the Batman Black Whites. I was trying to dig those out for the show. There's boxes over here you guys can't see. So,
yeah. So just to clarify a couple things too, I worked at Sideshow for 10 years. Haven't worked there for the last year, but like I had a great time there. Loved it. That's how I got to know Dave.
Yeah.
I was helping like build this print program, and I was a huge fan of Dave's work. And I don't think Dave and I really knew each other. We might have been like Facebook friends, but didn't like know each other.
Right.
He did this Batman Dark Knight Returns piece I love, where I had Batman in the background like driving the tank and Robin in the foreground. I'm like,
yep,
we have to make that as a print. And there's some like weird holdup with licensing at the time about producing pre-made pieces, kind of a thing. So it wasn't the right time, but eventually I got to work with Dave, and I think the first piece he did with me when I was at Sideshow was the Deadpool core.
Yeah. Oh,
right?
cool.
Was that
Okay.
it? Yeah, we were doing like a 6 scale figure or something. I forgot if it was. I think it was tied with a 6 scale articulated figure, and that was weird timing too, because like when I was at Sideshow, when we were making the 6 scale figure, it was like we didn't know about the movie, and we were like halfway through development when they announced the movie. And so it was like perfect, like
The
stars
Deadpool
aligning
movie?
timing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
perfect,
we
then.
started that. Yeah, so like development takes a while. So we started that way before the movie was announced. It was announced, came out like a year later. That's right when our figure was done. Kind of beat Hot Toys to the market with a 6 scale figure, only by luck, which is great. And then worked with Dave on that print, killed it, and it was a great beginning of that relationship, and just like catching the Deadpool wave while I was riding high. But yeah, so I was at Sideshow for about 10 years, and I loved it there. And now I'm working with another company, Tweeterhead, but I have nothing but good things to say about my time at Sideshow. So it's really cool.
I mean,
Like a lot of change through the industry over those 10 years too. A lot of change. Like I think the two pieces you have on your shelf, Alan, I think those are both like traditionally sculpted pieces.
Okay.
And then now like so much is digital. It's just crazy how much has like changed in like 10 years. You know? Like,
yeah, I mean, the first time I saw these, like, you know, back when I was young, I have a bunch of Bowen statues too, because when I was younger, those were the first time I saw any kind of comic book related sculpt, right? I have a Daredevil and I believe a Spider-Man and a Gambit. And there was just like, nobody made sculpts like that. And then when Sideshow came out with these things are like, you can't see because my camera's, you know, not sharp on that, but they're really detailed. And I mean, you're getting your money's worth out of it. And the lantern actually glows, right? So it's like extra. I've had that lantern for what, 8 years? That thing still lights up. You know, I don't even know where the battery is, to be honest. So, but I mean, so both you guys, I met you guys at San Diego a couple of years back. I was working Ron Lemon's, I think Dave, you actually mentored Ron Lemon a little bit too, just like myself. So like, you know, I worked that booth and I met you. I met Dave at the party, and I think I met you through the Williamses, Alan. And
Alan,
Vicky. Yeah, I was trying to get Alan on the show this morning, but he's on a weird night schedule now, and he sleeps during the day. Maybe he's Batman, you know.
He works till 11 a.m. or something like that, and then passes out and wakes up at like 4 or 5 p.m. I'm like, what? it's like a literal vampire, you know.
It's a schedule that would not be allowed in this house, you know. Like so.
That's one of my favorite things about like Comic-Con and Monsterpalooza and any of those shows, man. Is like all the people meeting people, artists meeting artists, and all the connections you make. And most of the people are cool. Not too many. I mean, there's some douchebags, but for the most part, everyone's really cool, really helpful, really friendly, and they're awesome. So yeah,
San Diego is one of those things. I mean, San Diego is one of those shows, you know, when I was younger, I was always like, I'm going to go to that show someday. I'm going to buy everything there. And I never really thought about it. And then, you know, my first time there, I'm actually working there, selling my own stuff. Well, actually, I was working Dave Seeley's booth, if you guys know Seeley. He does some work for Sideshow now, too. But I met him at a LexCon. If you guys have never been to LexCon, it's a fun show, too. It's like mainly all artists hanging out. Tons of traditional work. But I met Dave
like
there.
Fantasy illustration
convention? It's like it's basically like a fantasy sci-fi illustration convention. It's not like a Comic-Con. It's more like I would say it's more geared towards collectors. But the cool thing is, as an artist, for artists, it's cool because it's like kind of like a mini vacation for us. We all kind of come to a central hub, and we get to hang out with just our art friends. You know, and obviously we missed it last year because of the pandemic. So we're all, but it's kind of like a recharge for our artistic souls, because it's not. You're going there, you know, you might sell something, you might not. I work the show every year there. There's a small section set up called a showcase for up-and-coming artists, so I always do it. I don't really sell a lot there, but it's just nice to hang with your family, you know?
That's one thing, like, Comic-Con, you think of it as vacation, kind of, and it's like 5 days of high intense, not relaxing.
It's like so not relaxed.
Yeah, I would say it's like a vacation that you're not where you normally live while you're working, and you're like in San Diego trying to get some work done, networking while just like no sleep. All like I'm hoarse by day 2 or 3. I'm like,
I've been by your booth by like day 2 or 3 to talk to you, and you're just like, I can't talk right now. I'm dying slowly, and I'm not as popular as you two at the show, obviously, but it's such a crowded show. Like I was not mentally prepared for how many people. It's like you know, I work like Gen Con, I work Dragon Con, and there's moments there where I can like quote unquote relax for 5 or 10 minutes, where I have a moment to breathe, right, and just be like, whew, that was a lot of customers I just dealt with, because you know I'm Scrooge McDuck here, I'm making money. But San Diego is one of those shows where it's just like non-stop, and like even just to leave my booth, right, to be like, hey, can somebody cover my booth so I can go check out the cool stuff that's out there. It's like, it's a scary moment because it's just shoulder to shoulder in there. And I don't really like crowds. I feel safe on the other side of the table.
Man, you chose a convention to go to then.
I know. Yeah. Well, you know, the first time
I'm going to go to San Diego Comic-Con.
Well, 5 years ago when I went, I think it was 5 years ago was my first one. 5 or 6. something like that. When I went there, I dove into that crowd because I just showed you guys, I told you guys my book. I finally got it printed, right? This book, when I was trying to get this product out the door, I was talking about the artwork, I was talking about the stories. San Diego is where I stood in the middle of the aisle and I just handed out postcards as people went by, like just boxes of postcards. I was actually I was standing outside of your booth, actually. I go, you were like right there on the corner. But you probably didn't notice me because I didn't know you that well then.
There's like a million people there. I forgot if I got super lucky with my booth placement, which is a big deal there too. For a long time, like, 8 or 10 years ago, I think was when I got my first booth, because I had a small, like, 6-foot table and small press, or a 4-foot table. I forgot what it was. Then I got an 8-foot table year 2. Then year 3, I got my first booth. But at that time, it was like T-shirt tower was all the way on like one end. Yeah, we were right by that place, like just T-shirt towers, comic plate. It wasn't near the artists, so it was kind of weird to be like an independent artist group over there, where it's all like old comics, old movie posters, T-shirt towers at the time. Eventually, we worked our way closer to Sideshow when I worked there. And then at one point, I was just hanging out with the Shiflett brothers, and they had like the best booth location because they've been going there for like 20 years.
Yep.
And Brandon was like, "Yeah, I don't think we're gonna do next year." And I was like, "Can I have your booth?" Like, I didn't like apologize. I didn't care. I'm like, that booth is the best because there's 2 main aisles that go like all the way down like the main section, and they're
on
right
the
off
one.
that, right on. And they're facing the long direction. So, like, you can get a corner booth on a main aisle and be facing, like, towards the shorter end. But, like, we had the most visibility. It was, like, winning the lottery in terms of booth placement. And Comic-Con was cool with us switching and taking over their spot. And I think that's when, I met you, Allen, was when I had that booth placement. Because the other booth placement, close to Sideshow. Totally. It was cool being close to Sideshow, but there's, like, this giant concrete pillar blocking us. It was a small aisle, so we were shoved in between 2 like corner booths, and they had tall towers, so we just zero visibility. And this one's like the opposite. That's important. I know, like, when I met Dave for the first time at Comic-Con, he was like against one of the sidewalls, which had great visibility view, like along a bunch of other.
That's where I am. Ron and Vanessa are right along that wall there, and then Dave, I think, is on the other side of us. And then at one point, Dave Seeley was right on the corner there, but then he moved a little further up because Donato was like, I got open space over here, so he moved. But yeah, my first 2 years there, I was just working a booth, and then I started working my own booth finally, thank God. It's much more fun to work your own booth.
Yeah, because you just like fuck off. You're just like, all right, I'm gonna go get lunch. Closed.
Yeah, no, I don't do that actually. I let Sean. Actually, I was trying to get Sean Murray on the show. I make him watch my booth when I walk away. I'm like, get over here and watch this booth.
Sean, I don't even like Sean. I'm glad he's on the show.
You know what's funny? He had the same reaction to you guys, you being on. He's like, I don't want to be on the show with those guys. But I actually want to talk a little bit more. So about Sideshow, I was curious to like things like, I've been watching a lot of those videos where you see the people hand painting those sculpts, right? Like, and I don't know if I don't know if every single sculpt is hand painted, is it?
So the way it's done is they are hand painted. They do a prototype in America, like, so the team does a prototype here, and they do at least 2, and that's like common with like every statue company. Usually do like 2 prototypes, so you can have one to keep, one to send when you get mass produced overseas. So it depends on what factory you're dealing with or whatever.
Sure. But
then they do counter samples sent to you, and you have your original prototype to like compare it to. But the final production run, like the pieces you have behind you, those are hand painted overseas by like a factory line.
Sure.
So it's like a factory line will consist of like a lead painter who tries to do the initial matching of the prototype. They're trying to figure out like, all right, this is what Sideshow gave us. How can we best match it using like whatever techniques I need to like relay to my team? And then they get back and forth until they like lock in like, all right, cool, this one's approved. Now I can direct my team of like, all right, you're the person that does all the black on Green Lantern. You're the person that does all the green, and you're the person that does the skin color on the face, and you're the person that does detailing here or whatever. So every project's different, like going from Green Lantern to Predators, which are the craziest ones.
Because they got that texture on their skin.
A million parts, million paint apps, million different things, netting. It's like, oh my God. So production lines can completely change depending on the product. No project's like another, so.
Sure.
So long answer to short, yes, they are hand painted. Just
no, that's what, I was curious about it because like we've been watching. I was trying to also get my other friend Andrew Sides on here because Andrew does a lot of sculpts and he paints them all day, and we've been watching a lot of those videos because we get like a lot of tips from them. There's tons of advice in those videos if you just take the time to watch it. I was like, there's no way they're hand painting each of these.
If they were all hand painted here, that'd be a totally different price point. That like $400 statue would be like a $5,000 statue to make the margins work.
No, like I said, you get what you pay for with these statues, the details on them, and then on the other spectrum, you got now they have artwork too, and that's where like, Dave, I think I first saw Dave's work when you did the Batman piece, and then I think you did, I don't remember if it was for Sideshow or not, but the piece that I saw that made me really look up a lot of your work was the Masters of the Universe stuff.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
You're like, oh yeah, that stuff is cool.
He-Man for life, dude.
Yeah, the Master Universe, and then I was like, holy crap, who did this piece? Like, it was awesome, And I don't know if that was for Sideshow or not, but that's when because I came and found your booth at that show, and that's how I started talking to you, because I was hanging out with you at the party later, too.
That was for PowerCon.
Okay.
So there's like a Masters of the Universe like convention here in Torrance, typically in the fall. And I was getting ready for that show, and knocking out some covers, getting that stuff done, and just kind of like an assembly line. I learned a tip from, what's his name? I see his face right now because I remember him talking so much trash to me at my booth. Oh, it'll come back to me.
I want to know who this trash talker is.
I know he paints multiple covers at the same time, just as like a big canvas. Especially if they're all in like one kind of like.
Or he just cuts them up.
Yeah, so he's just like render, and I'm just like, oh, that's super efficient. You know what I mean? So when I have multiple deadlines right now, I kind of do something similar.
That's not a bad idea.
I'll do two at the same time because it's all rendering once you get the drawing part done and you're just like painting. So yeah, I switch back and forth. Like I can't noodle on this face anymore. I need to noodle on this, and then both pieces kind of like come up together. Like at least
that's not a bad idea at all, man.
Yeah, but if you can like wrap your head around it, like this is Spider-Man and this is Batman, like, and just be like, still just rendering. It's just rendering. It's just painting.
Okay.
Dave, which was the first He-Man cover that you did? Was it the skeleton, like where Skeletor's holding his staff in the air? Was it that one, or was it something?
No, that was it. That was the first one. And it was funny too because my buddy Carlos Danda, who old school Wildstorm DC guy, he's just a beast, man. And he was like, he knew I was doing the Skeletor. There's a Skeletor frame from the old Filmation where he's sitting on his throne and he's got the diamond ray of disappearance, right? This cube that would pop up and
nerd.
I know. Anyway, like it's so funny too because like people go super meta with it. It was like, is that Skeletor with the Tesseract? I'm like, no crossing, no crossing the streams, okay? But no, like I was just noodling. I was like, I want to see if I could take an old Filmation like super cartoony thing and make it like really hardcore looking. So just as like practice, I was noodling that. And then Carlos hit me up and was like, hey, that Skeletor that you were doing for fun? I'm all, yeah. He's like, you need to finish it. This weekend would be good. And it was already like Friday night. And I was like, all right. So like I banged it out and sent it to him. And then Tuesday I got a call from DC and was like, hey, we need a variant for the He-Man cover. And Skeletor is what we need. So, and I think it was Pat did the original cover with He-Man. And then so I did the mirror image with Skeletor. Unbeknownst to me,
there's original like He-Man, and you did like the companion to it. That's awesome.
So it was like a traditional comic book style, like pen and ink,
Yeah.
And then I just did my digi thing. But it was funny because like many years later at conventions, like people would just be like furious, like I had something to do with it. That cover was, I didn't know it was like I thought it was a 1 in 25 you get the cover, right? But I had had some angry dude with nostrils this big in my face. Like, it's 1 in 100. So a retailer had to buy 100 copies of the regular book just to get one Skeletor, which is why like it goes for like crazy money on like eBay, you know, which, you know, I don't have anything to do. And then I got into this rut where like everything I was doing was like variants. And I was just like, no, or like the chase almost, you know, where you have to get a certain amount of
It'd be great if you just held up a stack in fandom real quick.
Well, you know,
like all of these.
I do have a few.
Yeah, of course you get a few. You worked on it. There's no one should be angry at you that you have a few.
True all the time, though.
Oh, really?
No,
That's not
Okay.
true all the time.
dude, the first batch that I got, which was really funny, they literally threw them in a bag and mailed them to me.
Yeah.
So when they got there, all the covers were torn off and everything else. And I was just like, you know, not knowing that this thing was going to be worth anything, but I was just like, hey, I know it's a courtesy to get copies of it, but can you do better than this? You know, and I sent them a photo of like everything just ruined.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, oh, sorry, Dave, we'll get you some more. And then these came from Diamond, and they were all bagged and boarded and everything else.
Nice.
And I was just like, oh, cool. So I just put them in my short box and just never looked at them again because they're all good to go and safe. And then when that dude lit me up like a year and a half or 2 years later, I went on eBay and was like, oh, man,
Yeah.
you know, wow. I'm like, hey, you want to go on vacation? Because I could just throw one of these on eBay.
Yeah, it's worth a lot of money.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
That cover actually came up. I'm in a few like He-Man nerd groups, you know, because I'm working on He-Man stuff, and someone posted that print recently. Like, I got this print, and it's signed by the artist Dave Wilkins and framed. And I was like, signed by what? Like, you just like so special.
You're like, that's not his signature.
Yeah, I know his
cool.
picture.
I think he dated it like 2007 or something.
Yeah.
Was that how long it was, Dave?
Yeah.
Yeah, because the thing about it is I did
Crazy.
different versions of it because, you know, the original Man-at-Arms figure, nerd, didn't have a mustache. So
Yeah.
he only had the mustache on the Filmation cartoon, right? In the original figure set. Now they have figures with him with a mustache. But,
Yeah.
so the first print I went straight for the cartoon, you know? So, because most people know the cartoon, he had the mustache. And then,
Yeah.
then when that one blew out, I did a variant with no mustache and changed a few things on it. Yeah.
And
That's
then,
cool,
and
man.
then all the
I remember
He-Man nerds were like those are little details not everybody knows.
Yeah.
dude, that was like Alex Ross did that one mega painting with like a million characters, and
That dude's
when I was
amazing.
at Sideshow, because we produced that for them as
Yeah.
like a limited print, and I was
Yeah.
looking like, oh, that's cool. They did Man-at-Arms without a mustache, and like I think it was Chris that was there, Chris Rups, and he was like, I didn't even know that, and I was like, dude, yeah, it's the like just the same thing. I was like, that's the original toy. You can tell like Alex used the toys, like zero cartoon reference for this because of that. So to me, it was like, oh, it's cool. Just you think of Man-at-Arms now, and he's always got a mustache, but it's cool to see every once in a while, like, yeah, no mustache, you know?
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like, I don't ever want to follow that guy in the booth ever. I mean, it's Alex Ross, you know.
Dude, his like double decker booth.
Okay, that'll be my last man. I'm done.
He's got that double decker booth. I always last time I was in San Diego, I thought I could walk upstairs, and they're like, no, upstairs is a lounge for his guests. I'm like, I'm sorry, downstairs is a gallery, and upstairs is a lounge for his friends. Like he couldn't just rent a lounge anywhere else, you know? Like I was like, cool.
I mean, usually those lounges are like for business meetings. That's easy.
Sure, I get it.
I had to go to that lounge a couple times, and that was the first time I was ever like on a second floor inside the convention, and it was kind of cool being up there and just like seeing the whole.
I want to see from up there so bad. Like I have a friend here who owns a comic book store, a local comic store called Keats Comics, and Alex is from Illinois. Apparently, this is how I figured that part out. He's friends with Alex. I guess they grew up or whatever. So I would always see Alex Ross at this comic book store doing signings, and he's the nicest dude. He'll sign like stacks. Like, you know, I feel like if I was like, where my booth is at the show is across from Mike Mignola, and that dude also signs like people show up with like stacks of comics. I'm like, dude, show some respect. Like, get like 5 or 6 signed and move it along. Why you're obviously a retailer, or you're gonna eBay it or whatever, right? You're not obviously gonna keep it. But Alex would just sign. I remember once I was like, dude, why don't you just tell him you'll sign like 5 and cap it out? And he's like, they paid money for something I created. So, and I was like, I can respect that, and it's kind of the same thing that Mike said. But I was like, I feel like my arm would get tired because I see people like going into their boxes and they come out with this stack, and you're like, here we go, you know.
I think my first anytime I met I think the first time I met a professional artist, I'm from Colorado. J. Scott Campbell came to because he's from Colorado, he came to like a local comic shop, and I was like, oh my god, a comic artist! Because being raised in Colorado Springs is like reading wizard magazines and stuff. It's just like it's a fantasy world that doesn't exist. You know, like it's just I never had been to a Comic-Con yet. You know, whatever. Just read all sort of magazine, and then you get to meet one of these people in real life. It was like meeting a unicorn or something. I just freaked out. I went through the same thing where I'm like, I don't want to bring a stack. So I brought I think at that time, that's when like 80s cartoons were booming in comics with Dreamwave, and I don't know if it was IDW at the time or whatever, but like Pat Lee was doing the Transformers stuff. I had all of Jay Scott's like variants for like the G.I. Joe cover, the Thundercats cover, the He-Man cover, and I like brought just those because I didn't want to be, I'm like, all right, there's a limit. I'm going to bring like just the 80s shit. And yeah, it was just funny seeing all these guys with like giant ass. Like,
that's
what? Your mom didn't raise you well, you know?
Well, dude, like,
exactly.
Old school. That's old school though, because like McFarlane is the same way. I met that guy way back when, and people were bringing his whole run of Spider-Man, and I think Spawn was on issue 2 or 3 at the time, and they were just dudes like in a room in a salon, like chairs lined up, and they just all had stacks, and he would just sit there and sign each one. Like,
I mean, props to them, man. I've got one Spider-Man. I got Spider-Man number 1. You know, where he's sitting in the webbing, signed the variant cover, the black costume cover, signed by him, and I was just like, that's the only comic I had on me. I heard McFarlane was going to be there. I'm like, here's this variant cover I've got. I'll get this signed, and I got a CGC. But I know that feeling you're talking about when you meet, like, because I don't want to embarrass Dave, but Dave was one of those artists I really liked, and I wanted to talk to him. And I remember I was at that party with Eric Wilkerson, and Eric's like, he's right over there. And I'm like, introduce me. And he's like, no, just walk over there. I'm like, just walk me over there and introduce me. And I didn't want to just walk over there and be like, what's up, man? And that's what I ended up doing, right? Because Eric was just like, no, man, I'm not walking over there with you. I'm like, fuck you. I'll be right back. You know?
That's because Eric already knows. Like, there's no...
Right. Dude, Eric knows a secret that I don't know at that moment, right? Which is all artists are actually really cool. And for the most part, 9 out of 10 are easily approachable. And you might get that one artist who's just having a bad day, you know? Or is an asshole, you know? Like... And you'll feel that vibe real quick, you know.
Yeah. Like, there's a couple of them, man, that I just don't understand, you know. Yeah. But it's not for me to understand.
Yeah. It's like whatever. Like as soon as you get that vibe, you just check out. You're like, cool, man. I'm sorry.
I'm not a doctor.
I mean, I met. I remember when I was like, I think I was like 16 or 17, and I met the dude. What's James O'Barr, the Crow?
Oh, yeah.
He was in a mood, and he might just having a bad day. He was at fucking Wizard World, you know, and he's sitting at his table trying to sell his wares. And I was just like, cool, I'll catch you later, you know. Like I'm 17, and I'm actually a very angsty 17-year-old. I will punch you in the face if you keep talking to me that way, you know. Like,
So, how old are you now, Alan?
Don't make me say my age online.
I want to get context for like how different, like if we were 17 at the same time or not. I'm 38.
I'm 41.
You are oh, cool. You were like,
I'm like an elf, though. I'm Asian. Asians don't age, man. We just get, you know, we just look like this.
Huh? Ignorance?
No, infants.
Yeah, Asians. Oh, we're infants.
Because I'll be 50 in October.
Holy no way!
You're gonna be 50?
Get out of here.
Yeah, man.
Dude, I don't know what like children's blood you're drinking tonight. Good for you. I want some. Are you part of Q? You know?
it's the magic in those tattoos, man. He's so.
I light up. Yeah.
You know what it is, right? He eats well and he works out every day, while the rest of us just fucking sit here pile driving chips in our faces.
I'm banking on eating well.
I mean, I'm banking on my Asian side to keep me looking young for a little bit longer, but I'll tell you this much: if I don't start eating better, I'm gonna just.
What's your Asian side? Are you Filipino or?
No, I'm Indian. I'm 100%.
He's Indian.
Oh, Indian. Yeah, I'm Indian.
Yeah.
No, you're cool. It's all good. Yeah. You know, it's not as bad as, you know, some guesses people take. I'll leave it at that.
I would have assumed that, but when you said Asian, I don't know why I'm an idiot. So
no, you're fine.
That's why
don't worry about it. Here, let's move.
You're living in California and you don't think that
Wow.
way. Like when we think of our Asian community, like it's pretty
Right.
much like, we have the largest like Japanese.
Yeah, people
Korean-
typically tend to think Asian is Chinese, Japanese, or Filipino.
Yeah.
It's like India is part of Asia.
Yeah.
I knew that. I just always, when you said it, just like totally threw me off because I thought of using it. Anyways,
We're cool.
I knew you were in.
Let's
Just
go.
messing with
Let's
you.
move on. I got a question for you, actually, Igo. So, someone's asking a question. It says, so he's a question for Igo. Are the poses of statues ever limited by the budget or ease of reproduction?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, in terms of like,
It's like Dave's
if
got
you
an
do a
answer for that.
standing there guy, he's standing there, and then that's easy. If you want like a guy like 1 foot flying off of a like exploding like piece of base, it's like, all right, well, that's how are we going to make this? And
Mhm.
you know, I think like a recent example is like the new Darth Maul mythos, where he's like 1 foot contact jumping off like an exploding
Mhm.
Palpatine monument that I worked on with the Kucherk brothers. And yeah, it's just a totally different, you know, production issue versus like the Boba Fett where he's standing there. So there's ways you can make it. There's like a million aspects to make like cost. Like amount of resin is one thing, and then if you can get it like in enough parts where it's only like, even if it's a big statue, if it doesn't have to come apart in a million pieces, the box isn't as big. So box size matters, because you can have a smaller statue that comes apart in a million pieces and the box is huge, and that affects the cost. Amount of paint apps affect the cost, the materials affects the cost. So there's a lot of people, I think, when I see people online get like comparing statues, it's like, dude, that's like, you know, apples to oranges and sometimes apples to bulldozers. It's like you can't compare. That's not even fruit anymore. You know, it's like,
Right.
it's just totally different. So, and then, you know, portraits can be a thing, like a female portrait with makeup and eyes have to look a certain way versus like helmeted Boba Fett. It's like you don't have to worry about eyes doing this
Right.
in production or makeup or anything, you know. So yeah, pose can definitely be a factor. And then there's ways you can make the pose like a dynamic pose that's more cost effective too, but then you're kind of like, you could compromise the base, and I don't like that, you know. So
Sure.
yeah, lots of different stuff can affect the price, but pose kind of can be one. So
Yeah, well, my favorite Sideshow piece that never got put in production was because of cost and pose, which was the Paul Komoda Predator.
Did you guys? Was that
cool.
shared online somewhere?
no, Dave
Oh,
just
okay.
broke an NDA.
Oh no!
I think it's like over 10 years old.
Oh, okay.
You know, kind of thing, yeah. And we ended up taking that design and doing a bust of it, which
Sure.
Paul designed and sculpted, which is awesome, like a big like half/third scale bust, which is super cool. But yeah, back I think it was like my first or second year working at Sideshow, we wanted to do like these mythos pieces, which meant kind of like our own, like the Boba Fett mythos, kind of like you didn't see it on the screen, but could be happening in between the scenes or a side story. And with Predator, we're just like, hey, we can do like, you know, they've done in the comics, you know, counter action figures with Alien. They made bull and scorpion and rhinoceros and gorilla aliens. Like, what can we do with Predator? And I always had this, like, you know, I was talking with some of the team and talk with Paul, and I was like, Paul's awesome, like designer. He knows his stuff. I'm like, you know, Predators have such like crazy advanced technology, but they had to have had a prehistoric era for themselves to, like, I don't know if that's the right term, but you know what I mean? Like pre-technology kind of a thing.
Before they
like, what would it
evolved.
look like if they didn't have like robotic stuff? It was just like organic thing. Like, what would their claws be made out of and whatever? And then we're talking about it, and we're like, well, you know, it'd be a cool, fun nod to Predator 2 at the very end where they show all the alien skulls at the end. There's that giant center one that's like the biggest one. It's like, well, they're proud of that thing. It's the biggest one. So like, what would that be? So we had Paul design this creature head, like what that skull would be, and he made that the base. And then we had this guy, and we just were like, all right, cool, he's prehistoric, whatever. And we're like, there might be separate, like little, like they're not all hunters, I'd imagine. I'm sure like some are, you know, like landscapers, barbers, or whatever. You know,
someone's got to be like the gardener.
Exactly.
Like, I don't know.
Maybe they have like a giant, because I think at the time too, I think we were like pulling a lot of things together. I think there was that rumor for like Predator 3 a long time ago, bringing Arnold and Danny Glover back, and or Donald Glover back. Danny or Donald? Which
Danny Glover.
Danny, yeah. Donald's the yeah. Bringing them back, and it's gonna be like on their planet in a gladiator ring. So I was like, that's cool. Prehistoric giant creature, cool. Gladiator, predator on top of this like giant skull creature. So we got to the sculpt stage, and the thing was just like a million pieces and a million paint apps, and we're just like just sitting on a shelf somewhere, which is it's awesome. But
Yeah.
So we made a bust.
I mean, yeah, I mean that's the kind of stuff that's very interesting to hear because, like, you know, I see things like this lantern's got a glow, but you know, and then I saw like the new Gambit one that's got like the cards that glow, and I imagine that's a cost, right? And I guess, you know, you also answered the question about how many pieces is it going to be in, because I assume if you can break it down and box it up cheap, it'll be a little bit cheaper than one giant ass bust that you need to protect the hell out of.
Depends, yeah.
I mean, I was so his name is Tom, right? Is that the guy I met? He's got like a beard. He looks a little bit.
There's
like
a Tom there. Yeah, it's probably Tom. Yeah, Tom.
Yeah.
He was my boss. Tom
Okay, yeah. So he's the one I spoke to at the party, and he came by my booth later, which I didn't actually think. It was funny because at the party, he's like, Sean introduced me to him because Sean actually finally did the thing I asked him to do, and then he was like, I'll come by your booth tomorrow and check it out. I'm like, in my head, I was like, you are not coming by my booth. You got better things to do. Yeah. But he came by, and I was like, holy shit, you know. And
awesome.
yeah, he was awesome. He talked to me, but he was telling me how like things like, you know, because I was asking him how like the statues have gone from these giant statues to smaller statues, and he was telling me how like that's kind of like to bring it down to a price point where people can still buy a Sideshow statue and have something smaller, but it's still a Sideshow product, right?
Yeah, and collections, and you have companies like Prime One making freaking monster like third scale Batman versus Superman dioramas. It's like, all right, they got big stuff covering.
I mean, you guys have. I mean, Sideshow still has you. Like my friend Greg I said you guys are on the show. He goes, ask him to get you one of these, and he sent me the Batman versus Superman one that just came out. It's huge. It's like $3,000, and I'm like, yeah, if I spend $3,000 on this, I'm gonna get divorced because it's insane.
That's a Prime One piece. That's So Sideshow distributes for a lot of companies too. Like you mentioned, the Batman black and white statues. That's all DC and Direct / DC Collectibles. I forget what they changed their name a couple times, but they distribute for them. And they're not even producing anymore. But yeah, like Hot Toys, Prime One.
Yeah, Hot Toys is a good one. My friend collects a lot of Hot Toys. He uses them for reference for stuff because he does a lot of work for Marvel, I believe. And then I've got the Batman ones because it's something small I can put on my shelf, like, you know, and not worry about my kid tipping it over. I mean, she tries.
That's something we talked about for a while. Was like there's like podium collectibles, which is kind of like, all right, you need a podium or you need like a coffee table that's dedicated to this piece, right? That's like the high end. Then there's like, all right, here's the display, like here's like a shelf display piece, which is kind of like the typical quarter scale. And then here's the desktop collectibles, which can be like small, like even smaller than 6 scale, where it's like, you know, 6 to 8 inches. Like even like there's some video game statues out there that are like smaller scale that are just like, yeah, you can put those on your desktop. So those are like the 3 different kind of like tiers of like size, you know, we went for. So or you could say, all right, I need a whole room for this thing. So you have like a life-size Hulk thing that some company in China made. You're like, all right, that's 12 feet tall and 8 feet wide and 8 feet deep, like whatever. You know?
I mean, there's a dude, I forgot his name. I follow this one guy on Instagram, and he's like, he buys every single Sideshow thing. He's got like a dedicated room that's got like what you're talking about, the giant full-size statues, and he's got the smaller ones. It's just a room full of, I think he's a photographer, so he obviously makes.
Is he in Dubai? A lot of Dubai princes and, you know, oil wars.
They have everything.
I mean, of course they have everything, you know, it's in their tiger room or whatever. But like, I definitely don't have the money for that. So when I buy something, it's like I have to like budget for it. And that's the other thing I really loved about Sideshow. They're like, hey, you know what? You can pay us $50 a month to you pay this thing off. And that's kind of the same way I buy I'm not doing as bad as I used to when I was younger starting, and I make some decent money now. So when I buy original pieces of artwork, I buy them from artists who are like, here, you can pay me monthly till you pay it off. And then I'm like, I've got this very expensive original now that I finally own. And that's kind of how I feel about these statues, you know, because nobody can, I mean, most people can spend $400 in a go if they want to, I suppose. You shouldn't, but you can, you know. But I also, like, if I spend $400, I'm like, that's a PS5 I'm not buying, you know? Like, so.
Are they only I thought they were like 500 or 600. Is that like secondary market prices I'm thinking of?
I don't know. I have a PS4, and that's what I've been playing on. My friend works for Sony, and he was able to get me a refurb, and I was like, It's good enough, and it works great.
Well, anyone that's listening, Dave Wilkins promises free PS5s for everyone. Just email him at davewilkins@aol.com.
Oh no!
Oh my god! You send it to an AOL address. Some random Dave Wilkins at AOL is gonna get emails now.
Totally lit up. Yeah.
His phone number is 555-0545. Just call him. He'll give you a free PS5.
The total Hollywood number 555.
555.
Every movie.
That took me years to figure out. I never realized that as a kid. I was a dummy as a kid. You just watch
some
movies.
Still don't use a 555. Like we were watching some the other day, and it wasn't older. It was like newer, and they had a random phone number on there. Like, that's
did you call it? You got to call it.
I wonder if some people I wonder if some productions get away from that. They actually like get a phone number that just goes to a dead end, just so they can have like a phone number in a movie. Sure. That seems like that'd be kind of cool. Like I think certain things when you figure it out pulls you out of a movie, like the 555 white monopoly money or whatever. Just anyway, any of that stuff always feels like I'm cold. Like now I'm reminded.
Yeah, you're gonna rob a bank in this movie. Use some real money.
Yeah,
right.
Or just if you can't use American money, use Canadian money. They won't. What are they gonna do? Start a war with you? They're Canadians, Just like.
Don't.
They're so nice. You just apologize and they'll forgive you. They don't sue anyone. Just say Canada.
And this is how my show gets canceled. Thanks. So
I noticed real Canadian money. Like, hey, buddy, you can't do that, guy. You're just like, whatever.
Wow.
Stop it.
Burning. Oh man.
Tell us how you really feel about Canadians.
For a year and a half. So
you live in Canada for a year and a half. I got cousins who live in Edmonton. I actually really like Edmonton. They got one of the. I think it's one of the biggest malls in the world. Edmonton Mall. It's like I think the next biggest mall is the one in Dubai.
Really?
Which is massive, by the way. I've been to Dubai. That mall is insane. It's got like 3 hotels built into it. It's Dubai. They got money. I mean,
Dubai is Dubai. Dubai is Dubai.
They don't fuck around. If you've never been to Dubai, it's beautiful, but there's it's Dubai, so there's a lot of rules. Yeah. I got family who live in Sharjah.
That's
so
crazy.
I took a trip to India for a wedding once years ago, and then on the way back, my family's like, "Why don't you come here? We'll take you to Dubai. We'll have a good time." And I'm like, "Cool, let's go." And I'll tell you the rules. There's rules, man. There's hard. You think we got rules here in the States? They got some heavy rules there you need to follow. Like Sharjah, I believe they live in Sharjah. In Sharjah, I couldn't wear shorts outside of the house. You can't show your legs. But as we got into Dubai, the rules changed. I was allowed to wear shorts, and so I would change into shorts in the car because it's like 108 degrees outside. I'm like, I'm not wearing jeans out here. I don't have a death wish. But I went to the mall there. I went to the top of the Burj. I think it's the Burj Khalifa. Is that what it's called? That building is insane. Like the buildings here in Chicago, like if you go up to Sears Tower, fuck you if you call it the Willis Tower. If you go up to the top of the Sears Tower, like it's designed to sway, right? High rises have to sway. And so the Sears Tower sways about, it's designed to go 3 feet, but it'll sway about 6 inches. It's designed to go 3 feet. Like if a tornado came through or something, it's got to like hit, right? And not fall. So like you won't really feel it because it's such a bulky building. But then you go to the Burj Khalifa and it's designed like a cylinder, so it doesn't I think it doesn't sway as much because it just kind of moves slightly because there's multiple cylinders going up. So it's like a pretty awesome if you research it and learn about it. And I went to the top of it, and there's still where they let you get off. There's a covered point and an open lookout point, and then you look from where you're standing, and it's like another 50 floors up, and those are all condos that people live in apparently. So people live there, right? Movie stars own condos in there. Rich Indian movie stars live up there. But then they have a lot of specific rules you need to follow. Like if you're from Dubai, you have a lot of cool perks and benefits because they're like, oh, you're from here. We respect you more than we respect anybody else because you're from here. And then the next in line is Americans. If you're American, they show you a certain level of respect. And then Indians actually get treated very poorly there. It's kind of a weird, I don't know if it's a social thing or something that happened in the past. I didn't take the time to research it because that's who I am. But there's a level of people from there don't, I'm not saying they all hate you. They just, there's a level of respect that gets lost if you're not from there or American. Which is just a weird vibe, So I played the rules. I didn't really go exploring on my own anywhere, but the mall is is just massive. It's like you never have to leave that area. It's designed so you can like stay there. Everything you need is there. Like if you're vacationing and you stay in one of those hotels, you almost never have to leave the actual vicinity except to like, you know, we did a like a picnic in the desert, like a luncheon in the desert, which the whole time I was like, they're gonna leave me out here. You know, like they're gonna be like, hey, is this guy's American? He's cool. Wait a minute, he's also Indian. Let's just leave him. You know, like so like there's like a minute of like there you go. Don't forget it. But it's just like anything, right? You go to India and you go on those trips where you like go on the boat rides with a tour guide where you're just like, I hope this guy knows what he's doing because I don't fucking know what's happening. You know, like we were on a boat. I remember there was like a tiger and the guy was like, don't worry, he can't get us because we're in the middle of the river. I'm like, tigers can jump pretty far. You know, like I was like, if that motherfucker wants to get on this boat, he's getting on this boat. Are you guys prepared to deal with him is my question. You know, like, because I can't swim. I'm not going to jump off the boat because probably goddamn anaconda waiting for me too, you know? So I don't know how I got started on this, but either way.
I don't know how we got to buildings and boats somehow, but
well, let's talk about Dubai because like so my point was that when I was in Canada, I went to that mall, and that mall was the only place I could find a Slave One Bandai. Do you remember Bandai makes the Star Wars? They've got I think they might have an exclusive licensing for Star Wars kits, like the models, and they make one of the best Falcons for starters. I have 2 of them, but they make a Slave One that's you can't even find them anywhere. They're so hard to fucking find. And I was at Celebration 2 years ago. I should have fucking bought it there. I was standing right in front of it, and I thought, I'll find this online later. Nope.
Famous last words, man. Yeah. If you wait. Yeah.
I learned that lesson the hard way at shows now. I saw Green Ranger that I really wanted to buy, and I didn't buy it on the spot, and it sold out the next day. Because I was working a show. I was like, I'll make the money, and then I'll buy it. And it was gone by the time I got to it. And then now they don't make it's so expensive. So I saw one on Big Bad Toy Store. If you guys ever check that out, they have everything. And I just bought it.
Don't know what you're talking about. I never order anything from Big Bad Toy Store.
Someone comes running in with like a shoe to hit you with or something. So I noticed you don't have anything on your wall, I go, and I noticed Dave's got a beautiful wall of sculpts and posters. What's up with that, man?
Yeah,
you're just that guy?
Where's your life-size Guyver bust? Where's that thing at? Is that still at work or?
Yeah.
You have a life-size Guyver bust?
Yeah, like Steve Wang's company made
Elite Creature Collectible.
ECC, yeah, made the 1-for-1 scale Guyver bust, light up eyes, the whole deal, and then they came out and made the Guyver unit too, the actual the sound effect and like so I got both of those because that's my jam, you know. And so I have that at work.
Guyver and then Masters of the Universe. I'd have a hard time leaving any of my stuff at work. When I used to have a corporate job, I for a week left stuff on my desk, and then I was like, someone's gonna steal this, you know. But I didn't work in a studio. I didn't work in an art studio. I worked for like a transportation company, you know. So
okay. Yeah, we are all cameraed up and securityed up. And, yeah.
Like I got an artist friend who works for I think he does illustration or graphic design work for a company, and his office, which he locks up at the end of the day, he's an art director there. His office is full of like Star Wars collectibles and like in the packaging, just hanging there. I'm like, dude, you should not be leaving your original Star Wars characters in your fucking office at work. That sounds like a risky move, but okay. Like even my comic books, I'm like, you know, now that I moved into this house, I gotta go get them. I left them at my parents' house because I was gonna leave them in the condo, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, the Guyver's so massive, I don't have to worry about anybody trying to gank.
Someone would have to really like pick. They need your muscles to pick it up. Is that what you're saying?
Like, there's no stealthy way to do it, is what I'm saying. Like, you might
would be like, where you go?
Wave at me on the camera so I know who took it because it's huge. Yeah.
That's cool, man. Man, I haven't seen Guyver in a long time.
Yeah, man.
I got to get back in there. I've been rewatching a lot of my old, not the old ones, the Netflix Voltron series. If you guys haven't seen that, it's so good.
Oh, the new show is awesome. Yeah. It's super awesome. I loved it. Yeah, it definitely has moments where it's like, oh, this episode's geared towards kids or whatever.
Yes,
sure. But overall, that story's like, and it's funny. I was talking to Lauren Montgomery, who was the I think she was like co-showrunner, director of that show, and she's awesome. But like a lot of that too is like their love story to like classic like Macross Robotech cartoons too, like mixing and matching like elements from other things. It totally felt that way when I was watching it. Like I feel like watching that show, I felt like I was watching the original Robotech cartoon where it's like the bad aliens, or like, some of them are good, and bad, we're gonna team up against the real bad. It's like
what I like was like because it also reminded me of like when they go in a battle where you just see like. You don't really see the robot. You don't see the robot itself. You see like the glow, and then just sort of run into each other, and then you see like sparks. And I'm just like, that's cool. It's like classic '80s. I like that kind of. Yeah. And then they just did a great job with like if you watch the original Voltron, which is not bad, but it's the '80s, so you get what you get with it, right? And it's hard to watch at certain times where you're like, yeah, they didn't spend a lot of time animating that. And they had the old school, like, where the background moves and the robot just stands still.
Yeah. I know we're all the same age, but we're all like 80s kids. But yeah, that most 80s stuff is like, does not hold up at all. You like I try to watch certain things. I'm like, oh, it's so bad. It's just like.
Voltron was one of those.
Something they did, like the 2011 Thundercats show, I thought was awesome. I thought that was like a really good, like, love story reinvention of it. The team, I know that took forever to get that thing off the ground. I know Daniel Norton was like a huge push behind this, like getting that show made. And I'm so bummed that was only one season because it ended on like such an awesome cliffhanger. And I wish it got like that Voltron treatment where it got like a.
It still might. You never know.
Middle and end kind of a deal.
I mean, they tried to do like that kids version of Thundercats too, which was. I didn't think it was bad. I
haven't seen it, but I'm very cool with them. Like, it's not my thing exactly. Like, I want to see like I want to see cool Thundercat stuff. But to me, it's like if it gets brand awareness to expand and rope in a new generation, gets them interested, and that gets us like a cool live action movie, which it sounds like it might. Hopefully, it's cool. Then
I mean, I'm waiting for the live action Masters of the Universe, which I heard is still being filmed. I'd like to see a live action Thundercats. I don't know how the hell you would do it. It would be buck wild, but it'd be awesome to watch.
It would be. I don't know if Cats would have made money.
Oh damn! I forgot about Cats.
We tried watching Cats like 2 weeks ago, and we got like 3 minutes, and it was unwatchable. It was like unwatchable.
I don't get that movie. I don't understand how they thought that was a good idea.
Because it made money on Broadway.
Oh, did it? Yeah, sure.
If it makes money in some kind of arena, there's somebody in Hollywood to be like, yeah.
Yeah, but like even like you think one of those actors would come in there and be like, how much are you paying me?
Oh yeah.
And because they got like big name actors and actresses in that movie, and you're just like, what are you guys thinking? Do you really need money?
They're thinking about that mortgage. That's what they're thinking about.
I mean, I would love to see. I'm waiting patiently for this because like. Here, let me tell you, Master of the Universe was one of the first movies I ever rented as a kid. Like, I didn't realize you can rent movies when I was a little kid. And my dad, I remember, took me to the video store up the street and where I grew up. I grew up in Chicago, and he was like, "Pick a movie."
I'm from Chicago.
That's right. Don't forget it. And my dad was like, "Pick a movie," and I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "These are all movies. You can rent one and take it home." It just blew my mind, this concept, because I was always going to movie theaters with him. So I was like, okay. And then I found the live action, the Dolph Lundgren live action. Yep. At that time, that movie was amazing to me.
Oh, yeah.
It still holds to a certain degree.
I still love that movie. It's got its moments, obviously, that are like jank. But man, that movie, like when you look at those designs, it's like, that's freaking awesome still. Yes. I think.
It took me a while to figure out that was Courtney Cox in there.
Wilkins, what do you think?
Well, it's just like when they bring it to Earth. Just like anything else. Like, because as a kid, you're like, I finally get to see what Eternia looks like for real. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I'm just like, yeah, let's just stay there. Like, you're shooting in a desert. How much could it cost?
Right.
And then bring it in downtown Burbank, and I'm like, yeah, I know what that looks like.
You're like, I was just there getting ice cream the other day. I mean, I heard the new one is supposed to be set completely in Eternia. They're not going to do this weird bringing into a different realm situation, which, like that movie, like I said, when I watched as a kid, I was like, this is amazing. I got to see He-Man live. Dolph Lundgren, he's okay, the final battle was great. They left it wide open for a part 2, which never happened. And then I thought, like, let's see what they do with the new one. I've been waiting and waiting. I heard rumors that the dude who does the Fast and Furious movies, I think, is behind making the live action. I'm like, oh my god, don't ruin this movie for me. There's supposed to be a live Castlevania. It's the same guy, I think. And I'm just like, someone's got to stop the rumor mill and give me some facts already. There was supposed to be
the Castlevania thing you're probably thinking about is the animated show, because that's Powerhouse Animation Austin. They're working on the new cartoon show. They did Castlevania. So that's
season 4 is coming out. Castlevania is great, and I think the people that did Voltron were the people that originally they tried to do the live action Voltron and just shifted into this cartoon. Which, fine, it's an amazing fucking cartoon. So if you did Thundercats the same way, I'd be in. Like, give me a good storyline, give me some good animation. Thundercats still holds, I think. I watch that all the time.
The 80s cartoon?
I love it.
That's cool. Like, I think parts of it kind of hold up and parts of it, like, really don't. But all I need is to watch that intro over and over.
Oh, my God. If you were to, like, list, like, best cartoon intros, I think Thundercats is, like, top tier.
Thundercats and Silverhawks and 90s X-Men are, like, my top 3.
Oh, yeah, 90s X-Men. Oh, I forgot about... I'm going to do a whole episode on X-Men at some point if you guys are interested. I'm trying to...
Dude, you know what else is a great cartoon intro is the Beetlejuice animated show.
I don't remember that.
Bananas. It's like, what the F? Like, we were... my girlfriend Kelly and I, we during the pandemic, were like, we bought a projector, have a garage. We live on a corner in a neighborhood, and we can like project movies on our garage, and we had a couple friends over, so we could do like the social distant hangout thing. We'd watch movies, and while we're waiting for like the sun to go down and to get darker, we just put on Beetlejuice cartoons. And I hadn't seen them in forever, and I totally forgot how absolutely bonkers that animated intro is. It's like,
I don't remember that at all. Maybe I missed that one. I mean, I remember stuff like Pee-wee's Playhouse would trip my... I was like watching that like, what is this guy on?
The whole Beetlejuice show is insane. Like, every episode there's like 3 new designs for him because he's always changing weird stuff.
Yeah.
Hardly any peak of like...
Uh-oh.
I think we lost him.
We lost him.
Everything holds up on it.
Okay,
can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're back.
Cool. Sorry. Yeah, I'm in the back room again. Okay, hearing.
No worries.
But yeah, that show just really holds. Yeah.
I mean, I gotta do another episode with some 80s. I did one with 80s cartoons, and there were some interesting ones that my friends who were on with me brought up that I was just like, there were some on there like I didn't even remember until I looked them up, like Brave Star and
oh yeah.
Do you remember Brave
Mighty
Star?
Robots?
Yeah. And do you guys remember Jason the Wheel Warriors?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't remember that.
I
That was
never
one of my
watched
favorites.
it, but I know of it. Yeah.
I had the toys for that. It was awesome. They don't make toys the way they used to when we were kids either, so we live it up. Let me think
lawsuits.
Here. What's that?
There's so much. It's called lawsuits. There's so much lead in those figures back in the 80s.
Oh yeah, sure.
Metal is sharp.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they used to make G.I. Joes had missiles that fired and stuff, and they had to take away G.I. Joes that fired weapons and stuff because kids were like looking directly at them as they fired. It's like that kid shouldn't be playing with toys in the first place. Exactly. Like, oh, that's how Phil lost his eye. But let's see. So we're about at the end of the show here. I'm trying to think of anything extra I can ask about Sideshow, but I think you guys answered a lot of the questions.
Like, I was like 90% other stuff and like 5% Sideshow.
That's the point.
Funny. It's cool. Like, I like the organic nature of it. It's just funny. We're like, all right, Sideshow this, and we're like,
well, that's what I was telling you guys before. I tell people the same stuff, like
money, Canada, Dubai, like building. That's
how the show goes, man. The idea behind the show is it's just a casual hangout with friends, and then we record it, and then we have a good time. And it goes. I told you guys earlier, it goes everywhere and comes back. Like that's why there's no pressure. I'm just literally just having a good time. So I'm super jealous of Dave's wall of stuff, though. Mine will get slowly filled up.
Wilkins, your house is on fire. What are the 3 things in your collection at home that you're getting out?
The 2 frame pieces directly behind me is one of them.
What are those ones?
So, speaking of anime, that is a cell from the Ninja Scroll.
Oh,
Which
shut
cell?
up.
Dude, I have a cell. I have a cell from Vampire D Bloodlust. So
that's Gemma at the very end of the fight where him and Jubei are like knuckling up.
dude, that's awesome, man. I'm gonna go to your house and steal it.
Do you see the size of this man? Don't go to his house to steal anything.
And then right below it is a cell signed by Ralph Bakshi of Dark Wolf from Fire and Ice.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Right where he was coming through with the axe to like fight the Frazetta style monkey men. So yeah, those two are getting grabbed immediately. And then right in front of me is Eric Giss Wolfman and Oil King and Brahm. I got a Brahm piece right here.
Oh, you got Brahm. Awesome, man. Yeah, dude, original art is definitely the first. Statues and toys are, you can go find another one on eBay. You can't find another original, whatever.
Exactly.
No, these are coming with. Like, wherever I move, they go first, you know.
Yep.
Where'd you get the cells? Did you get those at a convention or did you get those on eBay?
There was a guy that was on... He does a lot. It's really weird. They do a lot of local, like anime shows, like really small conventions, like almost every weekend in like Pasadena or something. And he would have a cell. And he would have a business card, and then on his card, like or on his website, there would just be these random like lists of numbers and stuff. And I clicked on one, and I was like, wait, this is all Ninja Scroll stuff. And I was like, clicking through, and I wanted a really good shot of Gemma because Gemma was a huge influence on Zombo with his big chin and how his proportions and everything else. Yeah,
I started a ZBrush sculpt with that guy. Did I ever show that to you or no?
No,
No, I gotta show that to you sometime.
Yeah, but like the white parts above it. Oh, hang on, I'll grab it.
Through the pencil, right? Yeah. Go grab it.
That's an awesome piece to own, man.
God, he looks so skinny. He needs to work out more.
I was like, people are about to see like Dave.
I'm not gonna get ears right now because his headphones aren't in, so we can just talk as much crap on him as we want.
See,
oh, that's awesome.
The pencil.
That's awesome.
The actual cell.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
I don't own anything like that. Oh, nice.
Yeah. That's cool. It's diamond shaped. Yeah.
Yeah, I like how it's framed like a diamond. That's a unique way to frame it. I like how that one's framed like a diamond.
Yeah, that was so random too because I was doing a con in San Antonio. I had no idea Brahm was going to be there, and a mutual friend introduced us. And he just published his new book, his new hardcover, Lost Gods. And he had the original cover painting, and that's a chapter wash painting.
Sure.
Cool.
Yeah, and I saw it, and I was like, those kinds of designs, or that design reminded me of like his original stuff that I fell in love with many years ago. That kind of skull demon with the horns, that kind of goat influence. Yeah. And I was like, man, I really want that piece. And he was like, yeah? He's like, because they were all for sale. The only thing is, I literally go to Japan for the first time next week, you know, and with my wife, that's why I'm here, you know, making a little extra side money because I don't know, first time ever, you don't know how expensive it is. He's like, oh, I'll hold it for you. And I was like, what?
That's awesome. That's rare. That's rare. Yeah. Especially that he met you, know, like holding pieces.
Like just met me, like 5 minutes in. I was like, wow, this dude, he was just the most gracious dude.
Yeah, Brahm's a super nice dude.
Super nice guy. But like, he literally just met me 5 minutes ago. I kind of geeked out on him for a bit. And then he was like, yeah, I'll hold it for you. And I was like, wow. And he just reached over on the wall and took the kind of for sale, like sticky underneath it off.
Nice.
Oh, cool.
And was just like, just email me when you get back and we'll set it up. And surely, as soon as I got, you know, back from Japan, I was like, hey man, I hope you still got it. You know, he was like, yeah, I got you.
He's like, I sold it the second you walked away. You know?
Idiot.
Japan.
Alan Williams.
Who the fuck do you think you are? Hold it.
When I turn around, come back, and he like rushed up to my table. He was like, what piece did you want? I was like, this one. He's like, I accidentally sold that one. I'm so sorry. I'm like, you mother.
I mean, Alan's going a mile a minute, man.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, Brahm's a super. I met Brahm at Spectrum. I met him. He was a guest of honor at Dragon Con, and I remember at Spectrum, I gifted him. This is my first time at Spectrum. I talked to him for. He won an award at that show. I forget what the award was, but I was talking to him the night before. That night at all the artists hang out at the Hilton bar or the Hyatt bar, and he was super easy to talk to. I talked to him for like 20 minutes. It was like hanging out with a friend, right? I was like, I've been looking at your artwork since this is Magic the Gathering, man, or all the Dungeons and Dragons stuff or the role playing games, and I've been watching Brahm stuff since he was like, he started when he was like 20.
Did Brahm do Magic the Gathering?
I think he did Dungeons and Dragons. He did the it's not Forgotten Realms. Sun.
Something Empire. Sun.
Yeah, it's something like that. He had a bunch of artwork.
Really?
Yeah.
That's why I first saw his. And it was just kind of like this weird fantasy Mad Max thing going on.
Yeah,
And I was
it reminded me like a lot of like the old school like Judge Dredd characters, right? And I was like, these are awesome. But then like the next day when the show was closing out, I was just starting out. I had a lot of extra like frame pieces that didn't really sell, my metal pieces. So I gifted him one, and he was like super like, I can't take this, man. I was like, please. I was like, I don't care if you chuck it in a river when you leave the show. I just need to know I gifted you something because you really do help inspire me to keep working. He's like, once I said, I wish I can level up to your skill set. And he was like, we're always learning, Alan. All artists are always learning. Like, so don't try to compare yourself to me. Just keep working, man. And, he's chill. He's a chill dude. He seems like he's borderline Buddhist monk,
He's way on another plane, dude.
Yeah.
He's just so chilled out.
And the fact that he held that piece for you is like, that's as an artist who, when you sell like something and somebody says, can you hold that? You're like really rolling the dice and hoping they buy that from you later, Cause I've done that at shows where people are like, can you hold it? I'll come back. And then they never come back. And you're like, I could have sold this piece 5 times already, it's a risk, but.
Yeah. But he did that for me. And, man, every time I look at it, the memory that's attached to it.
Yeah, it's a good memory that you got from that too, right? So I've got a John Harris. I'll show it to you guys next time, but it's packed up still. But I went to LexCon one year. John Harris was there, and if you know John Harris, he's one of my biggest influences for my like landscapes and stuff, right? And I didn't want to really bother the dude because he came over from overseas and he was like working the show, he's making his money, and I was like nervous. I was like, holy crap, that's John Harris. And my friends were like, just go talk to him later when he's not working. And he came by the showcase, saw my work, and he was just like, you remind me of me when I was younger. And I was just like, but he talked to me for like 30 minutes, and he's like, come by my booth tomorrow. And I was like, I'd love to get a portfolio review from you, and he was awesome to sit. I talked to him for an hour at his booth. Like he literally stepped away.
Awesome.
Like an hour went by like this with John Harris. And then at the end, I was like, I really wanted to buy an original, but his pieces are like $4,000, $5,000. I was like, I cannot spend. I was about to have a baby. I was like, I cannot spend $4,000 at this booth. And he gave me a little tiny original. He sold me a little one, and I'm not gonna tell you the cost because it was a sweet deal for me. But that's awesome. One of the pieces I would definitely take with me if the house were burning. Because it's like it's such a rare thing. I never thought I'd meet this guy in my entire life. Like you're just like, that's John Harris. It's the same with Rick Barry, who is another influence of mine, who now I had dinner with the dude at San Diego 2 years ago, and he was like, he would never really talk to me, and I would really never engage with him. And he told Vanessa, he's like, I told Vanessa, I was like, I think Rick doesn't like me. He doesn't want to really talk to me, so I'm just gonna not talk to him. And Vanessa's like, he thinks you don't like him, and you don't want to talk to him. I was just like, the fuck out of here, But Rick's another one. He came by my booth. Yeah, we're like kids. We're like, can I take you out on a date? Like Rick was a cool dude, man, and he's like another one. If you get a chance to talk to Rick Barry, it's like the way it's like talking to Brahm. The way they speak to you is like they've seen things and they know like you're just being. They're not looking at you saying like you're being
it's
stupid.
Like they've been to war and they've murdered someone with a knife.
They've been to like art war. I feel like all the stressful things we go through as artists, like they've been through, so they're just like, relax, bro, it's fine, But you know what we didn't get a chance to talk about, and I didn't know if you wanted to talk about it, Dave, was your IP. If you want, you could talk about it real quick if you want. I don't mind if we go over time. Sometimes we go an hour and a half, but if you don't want to talk about it, that's fine too, because I wasn't sure how much you could talk about it yet.
No, we're just working on a new book. and putting together a lot of new stuff with Z, which is really cool. I think early to mid next month we'll have something online soon.
Cool. We can do a little premiere party.
Just his friends call him Z, or can strangers call him?
Everybody can call him Z, basically. But that just, again, he's just this amalgamation of my love for like all things 80s growing up. You know what I mean? Like WWE was massive.
Oh my
like
God,
the whole. Road Warriors, Ultimate Warrior, British Bulldogs, all the like spandex, the lame, and then you like mix that with, luchadors, which Zombo is, and it's one of those things where I used to watch a whole bunch of like really cheesy '60s, movies, just like everybody else. Like the whole Adam West Batman was like old and it was on reruns for all of us.
Right, so we all watched it, right?
We all watched it. Similarly, there are a lot of movies like with like Blue Demon and El Santo, Mil Mascaras, and all these guys that were just on. They were poorly dubbed or just like really crudely subtitled just before like Black Belt Theater, before like the martial arts movies on Saturdays, or late nights before all the Godzilla movies played with the horror films, and that's why I kind of fell in love with this because, Batman is my guy, but then there's the Bruce Wayne component, and as a kid, you don't give a shit about Bruce Wayne. You want the costume and the ears. And then you see a luchador, and I'm like, wait, that dude's in a business suit with his mask still on. You know what I mean? Like, he's never out of character. That's super badass, right?
Yeah.
But then it wasn't until, we moved to California that I realized that, like, luchadors were Mexican. They're Mexican inherently. That's the genre of... I mean, you have luchadors from all over now, and Lucha Underground and everybody can wear a mask and it's cool. But like inherently, originally, the OGs were all Mexican wrestlers that were, and that was their thing, their whole pride to it and the whole honor of it. And so, my love for that, living in California and growing up with that, mixed with my whole 80s, is where Zombo comes from, I mean, hell, even his like aesthetic is from Flash Gordon, which is like if you look at Ming's throne room, everything is gold lame, red lame, chrome or not chrome, gold skulls, Clytus with the gold mask and the like that whole thing. It's all in my DNA. Like it's always in the back of the subconscious.
That's one thing I love about like your IP and a few other people's IPs, and where I think a lot of people get hung up with developing their IPs. They're like, everything's been done before. Nothing's truly original. It's like, dude, like some of the best stuff, like Star Wars, is a amalgam of like George Lucas's inspirations growing up. It's like that's what Zombo is, and that's what I think a lot of things should be. It shouldn't be like this. I invented this new thing that never existed before. It's like, sure, go shoot for the moon, go for that if you can, but otherwise. Like I'm working on some stuff too, and it's totally the same thing where it's like trying to, I love this, and how am I going to make that all come together into a thing? That's some of the best freaking stuff. Is like you just forget. It's like even at Sideshow, like Court of the Dead is like Game of Thrones in the underworld. It's like that sounds rad. Like the picture for Zombo is like awesome. And I remember when I saw your art. I never read the comic until like a couple years ago, but when I was introduced to Zombo through you was through your statue you were working on. Which I was like, is that thing? Where's that thing going, Dave? Where's that thing at?
It's
again, that going to go with?
He can't talk about too much of his stuff.
No. It's kind of like just like before, like learning from this guy. How do we make it more cost effective? You know what I mean? Because it's monstrous. Like it's on some Prime 1 scale right now. It's like so big. And the base is monstrous.
Are you the model for it? Are you just like?
No.
I'm the model for it.
And that's not going to sell.
Man.
I mean, if we put a mask on, you might be different. I don't know.
Yeah, I just.
trying to
get it together and just seeing. Like I collect because space is limited. Like the 1/6 scale, I would love to see like Zombo 1/6 scale. And then when Mondo did the really cool, highly detailed Masters of the Universe 1/6 scale with the multiple heads, I'm like, maybe that's a lane to go into versus like
I mean,
this really big ass heavy statue. You know,
I've been looking at
We
like
could go 6 scale statue, like that way, like articulation is expensive as shit. It's like you have to get like steel tooling and stuff. But, like,
the joints
6 scale. That way, to me, like 6 scale statues are huge too. Because if you have Hot Toys figures, then you have a Zombo that can just go with them. It's like, dude,
that's
who
a good
cares if
point.
it can move or not? Or you could do, if you want to, you could do like 2 different torsos or swap out arm different. So it's kind of like not articulated.
Especially when you see how, like, when you talk about Hot Toys, how they do, like, say, Thanos and the Hulk, so their height range matches the movie versus, like, Tony Stark or, Captain America. And then just, like, you could really do something like that scale and do, like, a humanoid. Like,
Look into that. I've been looking into stuff I had a friend who sculpted one of my the Knight of Jupiter, the forearm guy, and it looked amazing, but I don't have a way of, I was trying to get it 3D printed, because in my head I thought that's the cheapest route, but then my friend Andrew Sides, who I've been talking to about this, he was telling me, like, you want to make it in pieces, right? So you'd make 4 individual arms, and then the torso, and then the legs, and then I was like, okay, now you're talking a model kit,
well, you have the key. Yeah, you have to, like, chop it up so it can be printed. For sure.
Like a 3D puzzle.
And I had a friend who sculpted me a quick. He did. I mean, I shouldn't say quick. It was actually really amazing. He sculpted it for me in ZBrush and sent it to look at. It looks awesome as hell. And in my head, I was like, it's a potential avenue for, I would love to see my stuff, because I collect these statues too, right? I would love to see. I actually contacted Funko. I tried to see if I can get a Funko version of my little astronaut dude, and they were like, politely, they were like, we work with bigger names than you, like, because I was like, you make cereal box characters, like, you got to be. There's baseball players, there's everything, but I want to touch on the fact that you're talking about your influences, and I feel like that's something that we all 3 of us have in us. Is like, my series is based on my love of 80s and outrun style and synthwave, and a couple people pick up on that, and a couple people are like, what is this? It makes no sense, right? But I'm like, and I initially had what you guys are talking about, is I tried to come up with that perfect idea. I'd be like, oh, someone's already done this. I remember when I was trying to create some of my characters, people were like, oh, there's a character just like that in Warhammer, or there's a character just like that in Dungeons and Dragons. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Those are my influences, so I took from them, right? Like, and it would affect my way of my creative process initially, until I realized nobody cares if it's an original idea. They just want to see something awesome. And
unless it's a straight ripoff, like,
unless it's a
Superman, but he has a giant, like, D on his chest instead. Everything's the same. It's like, right.
I mean, it's a straight ripoff.
Homelander's lame, but he's like an evil Superman making fun of America. It's like, that's why he's awesome. It's like, it's an obvious nod, and anyways.
I mean, once the other thing I was going to say is, like, people can tell, like, if you just lean into the stuff that you like or love, and then you focus on that passion and you create the stuff, people can read that, right? And they'll resonate with them. Like, people are always like, a lot of other artists, and you have a lot of friends, and you seem to do well at shows. I'm like, I don't really go to shows thinking I need to sell this product. I go to shows thinking I want people to see this product. And I would love it if you buy it on top of that, that's a bonus in my favor, right? I'm not living in a cardboard box. I make, I make decent money. Luckily my wife works, because if she didn't, I would be living in a cardboard box. But I lean into that aspect of, like, people can tell when you make something just because you want to make money, versus if you make something you actually enjoy making the thing,
And like, finding both is...
That's that happy medium. It's hard to do, right? You got to bring it together.
Yes, I'm pandering, but I love it at the same time, and it should sell well, because it's like...
Of course you're making something you want to sell, but my motto has always been, make the art, or write the art, or do the art, because that's what you love, and everything else will follow. And like, you're leaning into your influence. Yeah, they can tell when you're having fun, exactly. So, there might be I love Robotech, so there is a character in my series that's heavily based on a Robotech type mech. My character climbs into it and he pilots it at one point. And yes, it will remind you of Robotech.
But how many
Gundam came before Robotech?
Yeah, exactly.
How many mech pilots are there, like, in anime? You know what I mean? It's
hundreds.
Just like, it's You know,
You talked about Ninja Scroll. There's a character in my series. I have a group of characters called the Sons of Orion. The main character that leads them is heavily based on Jubei because I love Ninja Scroll as a kid, right?
Yeah.
And it's one of my all-time favorite animes. When I ask people, like, nowadays, when you ask some, like, I ask my cousins, like, what animes do you watch, and they name off all these new ones, like JoJo's Academy or whatever. I don't know any of the new ones, right? I'm like Ninja Scroll, Fist of the North Star, Akira, Lotus Wars, Record of Lotus Wars, Robotech. These are the things I grew up watching, and so I can tell when it resonates with the right. Also, you can find your audience, right? So
yeah.
I'm not going to resonate with anyone under the age of 20. I might, because my colors might blow their minds, but
the TikTok generation, is that what you're talking?
I try to get on. My artist friends are like, get on TikTok, and I'm like, I don't want to. It's just too much. I can't handle it.
And it's a distraction from you actually creating.
Yeah, I found myself scrolling it, and I'm just
chasing something. Versus
exactly.
Making what you're supposed to be making.
I mean, I stick mainly to Twitter, Instagram, and that's to like share stuff and I bounce, and it's really hard not to get caught up in the doom scrolling, as they call it, right?
Oh yeah.
Especially last year with the pandemic. So, but I'm looking forward to your project, man. And so
Thank you,
in a month and a half or whenever you push this stuff, I would love to get you back on and we can
absolutely
share everything.
Great.
The sooner it gets put out, Dave, the sooner you get a porn parody made, which is always when you know.
Well, when I get the porn parody, then it's on. Then it's just like, I'll drop this lawsuit for a fee.
There you go, man. And that's when you know you've made it, huh?
Oh man.
There you go. All right, guys.
Cool.
Well, we're about an hour and 20 minutes in. Unless there's some amazing piece of advice or something you want to drop, we can wrap this up now. And I'd definitely like to have you guys back. I know I would love to do a call on Godzilla, and I know Dave's a huge Godzilla fan. We should definitely do one on Master of the Universe now, seeing as we all love that.
Oh yeah.
Oh boy, carve out half a day for that shit.
I mean, it's one of my favorite toys as a kid, man. I mean, if you grew up in the 80s and you didn't have Master of the Universe, what was happening in your household?
Oh my God, I know something was wrong.
Something was wrong.
Dave, what's your expert advice for the listeners?
Expert advice.
Knowledge,
I think it piggybacks off of what Brahm and those guys were saying. Like, it's not that serious. Take your time. Don't. You're always going to be influenced by somebody. Like, because you'll see something that sparks you. You're trying to get there. You're trying to say that, but you don't speak that language. Basically, with your dexterity, you can't draw that well yet. You can't convey what you're trying to say yet. But you see these guys that have been doing it, and you're like, yeah, like that, like this, like that, and they all took time to get there. Travis Charest didn't wake up. Well, he might have woken up.
he might be the exception.
Okay. Yeah. Without Travis, so like we're gonna listen. No Travis, no Alex. But even Alex Ross, right? He's very fond of posting like his illustrations from when he was a kid. Like, this is where it started, and this is where I am now. Because it is a journey. It's not like being a lawyer where you pass the bar and now you're an artist. That just doesn't exist for us.
Right.
This like martial arts is like a constant study. Yeah.
I mean, there's something new to learn. Like I'm learning Blender right now, and Igo told me to go get ZBrush. But it's like 3D was one of those things where I haven't touched it since I was in college, and I was just like, I don't know if I want to do it. But it's so much nicer than it was when I was in college,
Especially now with concept art, the game is flipped. It used to be you would take the best illustration and bring that into 3D.
Yeah.
And that's how that character was made. And now with these artists today, like, they start with a 3D rough, and then like they can dial it in and do the highlights and cross the dot the I's across the T's in Photoshop.
I do a lot of landscapes. I've been like kit bashing like worlds, right? And what's great about it is once you build out that world, I can now bring my camera here and get a shot, and then I can bring it here and it's a completely different shot, and little tricks, that help you just keep producing stuff.
Yeah, I would say like, I don't know if you guys have seen Jamma's grease pencil tutorial. It's in Blender. He literally draws like some troopers, and then he like changes the camera, and he can like make multiple compositions out of it, and you can like literally storyboard a whole thing.
See, that's what I need to. That's what I'm
with
trying to
one
get
drawing,
to.
with one single drawing, and it's just like, wow, he drew that in 2D, like on his Cintiq or whatever.
And I think that's the goal. Like, I'm going to be learning more Blender from Ron, and that's the eventual goal, is set it up that way so we can do stuff like that. Because one of the things that's just, I have a slow process. I'm just slow, and I'm also super busy, so it just happens.
Yeah.
Igo, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I'd say if you're like starting out, you're in college or you just graduated school, like the piece of advice I would give people is don't compare yourself to like, if you think you're good because you're good compared to other students, that's like the beginning, but you have to compare yourself to like what's out there. That was one thing I think that helped me. Was in college, I was very like, in a healthy way, like competitive with like other students where I'm like, I want to be the best illustrator in school. And I never like really compared when I was getting ready to graduate, I never tried to compare myself to other people at my school, because I was trying to compare myself to the people I'm going to compete out there, which is people already working. Mm-hmm. And I think that helped, kind of like set the bar higher for what you're trying to achieve. And that always helps. I always find a lot of people, now that was like, 16 years ago, whatever that was. And the world's changed where so much more is online. Like people see cons and stuff going out there. So it's just like, it's totally different monster now. But then for people now that are like working and trying to like break in or whatever, there's like two different avenues. I think is one is if you want to work at a studio and you want to get into a studio, cater your portfolio towards that studio. If you want to work at Blizzard, don't show them some like weird shit that looks nothing like Blizzard. Show them stuff that looks like Blizzard, and then they'll want to hire you. You know what I mean? Like people like, they're not hiring me. I'm a great artist. It's like, dude, yeah, but your style's like on the other end of that spectrum. Like it's just nowhere near that. And then if that's like, if you want to get a job at a studio, cater towards that studio. Then if you want to push your own stuff, make sure you're like, your stuff is, again, like it just goes back to make sure it's top notch. You can't make sure it's like only what you want, because I think that's great from like a purist perspective, but you have to make sure it's marketable at the same time. And that's something I think people forget on the business side is, if you want to, you can have a great idea, but if it's not marketable, then it's a great idea for you and other people. So are you making it for you and just a few other people, or do you want to make it and get it out there to the masses? And that's where you have to have kind of like a real coming to Jesus moment of your art versus compromise for this other thing. And that's always a balance. So I'd say always never lose track of the business side either, of like how you're going to sell your stuff if you want to do your own thing, because that's important. It's rare. It's a unicorn if you come up with this crazy new concept and then you just find the right producer and then it just like goes crazy viral. Like that happens. That's not the rule. That's the exception. So you have to find like, how can I market my stuff? Who's my audience? Who am I aiming this for? Does my IP overlap with the He-Man fans and with these fans, with these fans? Like, cool, I think I can cater towards those people. Or who's it cater to? So business branding is huge, and that's something I wish they taught in art school. They don't do shit for business.
Yeah, they don't teach that at all.
No, they don't.
Just like, life drawing. It's like, dude, life drawing gets so far until you're like, I need to know business and marketing, and that's. Sorry, I feel like my answer got a little bit.
No, that's good advice, man. People need to business like the marketing and branding and business side of it. Something I learned, and I'm still learning over the years, because there is that moment where you're just like, this is like my first run with this was a lot of fan art, and fan art sells. But then the thing is, at one point I was just like, I don't want to do fan art the rest of my life. I want to do this IP that I've got an idea for. So then I started pushing that, and then I had to figure out like, am I doing this right? Is my audience resonating with this? Do they like, initially people were like, honestly, I got a book out, but people like the art, the stories is a secondary thing, right? So people will either like the stories or hate the stories, but the art, they definitely like. So, that's why I want to produce more art for it, obviously. And it's good to know if it doesn't work, there's a lot of artists out there who are like, I'm not sure people like my style. And there's a point where you can be like, you could keep working and find your audience, because I feel like everyone's work is liked by somebody at some point. But if you feel like you're working super hard to do this thing and it's not working, maybe reevaluate and try something different, see if it works out.
I find a lot of people aren't very self-critical or self-aware, and that's a huge. You can be your own worst enemy when you're trying to be successful with your own IP or trying to get a job. Like I have friends, I see this all the time, but they're sabotaging themselves by being like, dude, we all have social media. You can be as honest and as negative as you want about everything out there, but like, who's going to want to work with that person?
Right.
If you're like, why is this NFT selling and my amazing artwork's not selling an NFT, and the world's against me, it's like, dude, then you're not being very like self-aware and like analyzing the context of like this market or whatever. And I feel like if people's IPs or their own original stuff doesn't sell, they like love to blame everyone else but themselves.
Right.
It's
true.
It's just like own your shit, like maybe you are right. Maybe it is like you're not reaching the right audience. Then who's your audience then? Like why aren't they buying it? Like
you got then it comes down to marketing and brand, and it comes down to just good marketing and like and
which is work. It's a whole art.
It's a lot of work, man.
Like I make it, I put it out there, sales will come. It's like, dude,
no.
I work at Tweeterhead. We had to work our asses off to sell a life-size Skeletor bust. You think like this is Skeletor? It's like no duh. People will come. It's like, dude, you have to market.
People got to know it's there.
Yeah.
Like I market stuff online all day, and then when I'm at shows, I'm like, my friend hates it when I say I'm hustling out there, but I'm out there like working that booth. I'm not just like,
what's wrong with hustle?
Stuff's not just flying off my booth, right? People are actually there, and I have to talk to them, tell them about the stuff, tell them about the stories, talk to them about how I created stuff, and then maybe I make a sale, and it's the same thing. Like online sales are super hard, man. Last year I always said I'm going to set up online sales better, and last year the pandemic really proved that I need to work on my online marketing more, because online marketing is a whole different ballgame. You can't get the product in front of people's eyes. If they, like your Skeletor bust is a prime example. If somebody sees it in person, they're like, holy shit, this is awesome. That's the beauty of the Sideshow booth at the San Diego, right? They see these products and they're like, I want to take this home now. But then when you have it online, it's a half and half. It depends on who you are. Sideshow is obviously big. Tweeterhead is picking up, right? You guys just started last year?
I started there last year. He's been around for 6 or 8 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
I forget how long Chad's been doing it since, like, he made garage kits way back in the day. So, like, in the kit world. And I think Kimba was his first one that was, like, a pre-painted production run. That's his own character's own IP. And I want to say, I think Kimba was, like, 8 or 9 years ago. Maybe a little bit longer. It might have been closer to 10. And then, I'm not sure. He's been doing it for a while, but he was always small operation. He brought me on to help like expand a little bit. Not like, we have no desire to be like Prime One or Sideshow. We want to make cool stuff and do a little bit more. He knew I love He-Man and Masters of the Universe, so he's like, hey, if you can handle this batch, I can handle DC. I'm helping him with a little DC, so we're trying to like expand what he was doing and then add on another.
That's
chunk,
cool.
I'm on the wait list for Tila, by the way.
You are?
I didn't get there in time.
If only you knew someone who worked there, maybe they could help.
Well, the regular version of Tila is ready to go, but like I don't want that one. I want the exclusive with the snake staff, and I don't want the wait list.
If only you had a
I never
connection.
knew what that thing was called until we had to work on marketing for them. Like Staff of Ka would have never known that. The Cobra Staff, and then I had to Google it.
I mean, this guy knew the name of the crystal earlier. What did you expect?
I'm not that guy. Okay?
Come on. Just say it. You are that guy. We've established it already on the call. You are that guy.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'm gonna wrap this up then, and then I will definitely. It'd be awesome if I get you guys back on. But thanks for being on. I know I will make sure I schedule better next time. I know I forgot you guys both are in Cali, and when I scheduled it.
You're like, all right, see you guys at 10. I'm like, where are you? You're like,
well, I didn't hear from you guys all week, so I just assumed you're busy working. I don't like to keep bombarding my guests and being like, where are you guys at? Are you still coming on or what? But when you messaged me and you were like, is that our time? I'm like, what the hell does he mean our time? I was like, oh shit. These guys in Cali.
We're in Cali.
8 a.m. on a Saturday.
We got the two different Cali looks. Dave's got Muscle Beach, and I got, surfer hair. With our powers combined, we're one.
I know.
person. You know?
Southern California, right there.
Man, I miss San Diego, but all right. Let me take us offline first, or let me take us so we're not live, and then we can continue if you want.